if you form an opinion that somehow the virus is only for certain people and not for you. It would be a very wrong assumption. So we ask Jamaicans, please, don't assume that persons who have the virus have brought it in, have created it, are somehow cursed, have somehow sinned, have somehow deserve it, have somehow are bringing a plague on your community or your household. None of us are immune to the virus. It started somewhere else, and it is now here. None of us must claim or think that we will exclusively escape and it is others' fault.
That's a reality that we all need to process as we try to keep safe and be kind to those who are ill with COVID-19, as well as those recovering from the disease. Hello and welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. In this half hour, we hear the experience of discrimination from a COVID-19 patient, plus tell you of ways to engage the deaf community during this time. There is so much more to keep you informed of, so stay with us.
By order, under the Disaster Risk Management Act, you must wear a mask in all public access places and in public transportation. If you wear a mask and I wear a mask, we are all safer.
Up next, a recap of the latest details in the fight against COVID-19.
Jamaica now has 396 confirmed cases of the COVID-2019, with the additional of 32 new positives over the last 48 hours. Of the 32 new cases, there are 11 males and 21 females, with ages ranging from 1 to 71 years. 15 are associated with the workplace cluster in St. Catherine. 11 cases are contacts of confirmed cases and 1 imported case, and 5 are under investigation. Of the 396 confirmed cases up to now, 202 are employees of the workplace cluster in St. Catherine. Their ages range from 18 to 53 years. They include 151 females and 51 males. They are primarily from the parishes of St. Catherine and Kingston and St. Andrew. In terms of classification, Jamaica now has 35 imported cases, 8 that are local transmissions, not epidemiologically linked, 108 that are contacts of confirmed cases. Of this, 108, 43 are contacts of the Alarica employees who have tested positive. Just to combine the numbers as it relates to the Alarica employees or the workplace cluster and their contacts, that would be 202 plus 43, which would take us to 245 that are linked either directly or indirectly to the workplace cluster of the total of 396. 202 that are local transmission related to a workplace cluster, as said earlier, and 43 that are under investigation. So far, we have done some 3,993 samples we have collected and tested. Of the 3,993 tested to date, in addition to the 396 positives, 3,567 are negative and 30 are pending. There are 385 persons in isolation and 89 in quarantine in a government facility. 7 persons have died. 29 persons have recovered. We have had in the last, 48 hours, 1 case of an individual who works with another BPO facility who tested positive. The employee, a resident of St. Catherine, has been placed in isolation at a government facility. The health departments in Kingston and St. Andrew and St. Catherine have begun contact tracing to ascertain those who may have come in contact with the employee with a view to quarantine or isolate, test, and treat as is appropriate. The BPO has been temporarily closed to facilitate supervised cleaning, including the HVAC system. Of note is that the management of that entity has been in compliance with the recommended social distancing. While scale testing of the staff is not recommended at this time, however, some employees will be sampled. In other words, based on the risk assessment, Some employees will be tested. However, it is not determined at this time that the individual who has tested positive picked up the virus from the particular facility. However, it is important that we do the investigations to ensure that there is no presence of the virus at that facility.
At this point in time, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has been provided with approximately $2.8 billion for the COVID response. As at today's date, we have utilized of that amount approximately $2.5 billion. And so we have a balance of about $300 million that is to be utilized for the support of our activities going forward. However, we are now in negotiations with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service for additional sums to be made available to the ministry over the next 6 months. And that negotiation is ongoing, and as soon as those numbers are finalized with the ministry, we can provide those numbers for you. Field Hospital. We are currently in negotiation with a contractor, and therefore I wouldn't want to compromise that negotiation by declaring who that contractor is. But we have utilized our emergency contracting procedures to have that contract let in the shortest period of time. And that negotiation is slated to come to some finality by next week, Wednesday, at which time we will have a public signing, and the contract and the successful contractor will be made public. We have concluded negotiations with the Jamaica Defence Force, who will be the technical supervisors of the contract for the retrofitting of the national arena to be a field hospital.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness and all of government continues to urge the support, cooperation, and patience of the people of Jamaica in our efforts to disrupt the transmission of the virus that causes COVID-19. This is not a task only for the government, clearly, but for all of us. As we like to say, everyone counts. We need the people of Jamaica. We need everyone to understand that it will take some time to achieve our goal. I want to therefore use the opportunity to remind us to recognize our role. We use the hashtag #BeatCovid19 as a critical hashtag. Everyone counts as part of the promotion of all being involved and participating in the process. The team continues to work hard on the ground in St. Catherine, across Jamaica, at the head offices of the Emergency Operating Center, and it continues to be a team effort and will continue to be a team effort as we continue to overcome the risk of COVID-19.
During this time of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, literally every face-to-face meeting, conference, and class has been cancelled in favor of going online. However, we must remember to cater as best as possible to the deaf and hard of hearing. We implore members of the private sector and users of social media to use the services of a sign language interpreter where and when possible. For further information on how to assist the deaf and hard of hearing, contact the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities at 876-926-9376 or 876-618-1133. We ask all our stakeholders to play their part in catering for persons with disabilities. Take care of our persons with disabilities, not only today, but every single day. A message from the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
And on that note, here are other ways you can engage persons that are deaf or hard of hearing.
Call me Nefishiba.
Call the person by their names if you know their names, and if you don't know their names, ask. I recall when I was growing up, disability was not a word. most persons who had varying impairments, people used to call them, even today, I'll use this one. They call persons with one hand or one foot one-y. And they call persons who are deaf the D word, which I will not say. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the Disabilities Act push forward that you put the person first. So I know sometimes we love to say the disabled man. He is a man first and foremost. And so I know too that some members of the disability community, they don't mind. But if we want to be politically correct, just remember it's a person first.
I know many of our children and youths and even adults, they face labeling in their communities. And one of the derogatory terms that people would use to describe them is that you're retard or you're retarded. And those are terms that, you know, emotionally, they hurt persons with intellectual disability because you're seeing the person with a condition and not the person.
I am Hanaki.
They are also referred to as handicapped.
Don't call me that.
Don't call me that.
But we all know that what we refer to as a handicap is a barrier that you place. It can be a physical barrier, it can be an attitudinal barrier that you place on the person, you know, but the person is not a handicap. Anybody with a disability is a person first. And so you address the person. Do you, the tall person? No. You would call the person by him or her, by his or her name. So address the persons by their names.
You might say that, but the person is deaf, I can't sign. Ask them, maybe they can write, or maybe they can lip it, you know, and you figure it out together. Or if someone is in the space, they can maybe tell you, but ask. It's always nice to ask. And people who are blind are not necessarily deaf. So we do not need to shout and, you know, scream if it's a person who is blind. They can hear and they can speak.
It's a challenge, but for most persons will find the term visually impaired acceptable. People have many ways of referring to persons who are blind, which, you know, we in the blind community will find quite derogatory, right? There are terms that people use, you know, sometimes, you know, the tease of the other children, for example, you know, referring to them as bat or blind bat, or blinky, or cast eye, or, you know, those terms obviously are not acceptable terms and are you know, not terms of endearment at all.
I recently went to a function and the question was asked in the room, what do you think, what are the words that come to mind when you hear the word deaf? And everybody, you know, in the audience sought to say, no hearing, discriminated against, and all those kinds of words. And the deaf person said, what about champion? What about an achiever? What about a motivator? What about those positive words that we refer to others in society as? People with disabilities are those too. And so if we begin there, no, you do not have to pay money to change an attitude. An attitude is a decision. And so if Jamaicans, out of understanding that people with disabilities are people and they have capabilities, abilities like everybody else, then I think that will be a humongous achievement, because it will then have a ripple effect on everything else that happens in society.
We are just like you. We have the same needs, we do the same things. We work, we have families, we cook, we wash, we clean, we do all the same things. We are not different. It means that when you're thinking of persons who are blind or visually impaired, think of us as, your brother or sister. The same things that you need, the same things that you want, respect, the need for autonomy, those are the same things that we want.
I know a lot of persons might say, but that is what they are. And I would say, no, that is not what they are. The disability might be part of their person, but they are not their disability. The disability is a condition. And so all the other derogatory words that are utilized, if we put ourselves in the position, recognizing that disability is no respecter of persons, whether class or socioeconomic status, color, disability has no bias. And so in these days when we have those beautiful roads and we drive on them at high speeds and we can end up in accidents, a disability is a second away.
To properly carry out a hand rub, apply a palmful of the product in your cupped hand, covering all surfaces. Rub your hands palm to palm. Rub your right palm over the back of your left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Rub your hands palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Rotationally rub backwards and forwards the clasped fingers of your right hand in your left palm and vice versa. Once your hands are dry, they are now safe.
As we pull together as a people in the fight against COVID-19, let us not allow fear to rob us of our humanity. Discriminating against someone with the virus or who has recovered from it is not the solution. Instead, be understanding and support each other.
None of us must claim or think that we will exclusively escape and it is others' fault, somebody else's fault. We must treat each other in a way that almost assumes that tomorrow we're going to need the support of those who are so infected and impacted. We're going to move right into a young person, someone in their 20s, who is positive, is asymptomatic, and who is now in isolation and would like to get her experience. I'll call her patient X. In terms of the others knowing about your status, is it public in where you're from, in your community, in your home? What?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, as I tell all of them, I just want their prayers. That's all I want. For everything to go away and everybody can be okay and we have no more deaths, so we can go back to our normal lives. That's all we really need.
And how have they treated with you in that setting?
Very bad, very bad.
Okay, tell me a little about that.
It's like they behave like I am the one that created the virus, or they will probably say, me know about it and me did that spread it because me did want people for dead. How can I know about it when I was tested afterwards and I got the results? I'd have to wait until the results because, as I say, I'm not feeling any illness. And then we talk how I'm wicked and if it dead, and them Jamaican persons are.
Right. So how did that make you feel? I mean, knowing that
I'm going to feel bad. I'm human. I feel bad like I did something wrong when I did nothing at all wrong. Sleepless nights, crying, praying that I don't infect anybody, or
And some of these people are people you know, right? And once they hear, they just get cool on you.
Right, like I did something wrong, or I am the one that caused this on myself, when I was just somebody going to work just like a normal person.
So how has that affected your own mental state? I mean, you say you're stressed out and sleepless
Right,
nights.
at first I was.
Yeah.
Sleepless night, crying, wondering why me, asking God why, But then I just pray for him to give me strength to deal with this. and just to heal everybody and the world and Jamaica, because we're just such a small country. All my friends as well that were positive, them going through even worse than what I'm going through. Persons are calling police on them as well, and I just pray for strength for everybody to deal with this.
Right. Well, that's very sad. You make me very sad tonight. Recognizing how much work so many persons have done in public health. We really have to do a lot more to get the society to understand and appreciate. And your testimonial is very important because all of Jamaica needs to appreciate that none of us are all of us are susceptible, put it that way, to getting COVID-19. And indeed, the modeling that has been done by our epidemiology unit suggests that quite a number of Jamaicans are going to get it. But most of them are going to be in a similar position to you, in that you won't have any symptoms. You'll just be going about your way, and you may have one or two small things. You do a test, you're positive. The question is, what happens after that so you can get rid of it and not infect others? And that's where I want to take you before you leave us. Having discovered it, told about it, how have you been treated by the authorities in terms of the management of the process to where you are now? And you don't need to say exactly where you are, but just give us a little.
Okay. As I said, they check your vitals on a daily basis to ensure that you're fine. Ask you questions, how are you feeling, if there's anything wrong. And they give you things to boost your immune system, because remember that you have to have a strong immune system as well. So those are the things that they do. And we are very grateful for it as well.
And then, of course, you're taken out of the environment and placed in a situation that...
Yes, we're placed in a facility where we're treated.
Right, and you're comfortable there?
Yes, I'm very much comfortable. They're great staff members and... Right. We're very comfortable.
Okay, well, I'm very happy.
Checked on regularly to see if we're okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're quite fine.
So just use the opportunity to relax your brain and your mind and your body. And
that's what I'm doing.
Take it easy, because you soon get your 2 negative tests. And once you get that, then you're on your own. You can go back to your normal life. What is going to be important is that when you get back into your community, persons must see and treat with you like you are no different from any other person and what you used to be. And I hope that is something we have to spend some time on. All right, my final question to you is, what would you say to Jamaica and to Jamaicans in terms of your experience? What kind of advice or information would you give?
Just to get tested. Everybody just need to know if they have it, yes or no, and take the necessary precautions as well. And to mistreat persons that do have it, it's not a good feeling. We don't cause this on ourselves, and there's treatment out there. This is not a life and death situation. To be grateful that Jamaica has the least amount of deaths here, that's a great thing. And just pray. We just need prayer more than anything right now.
We really need to cut the hate and work together as a country, as communities, to overcome. I really do not want to hear about any case of persons threatening people, abusing persons because they hear that they have the virus. And also, for healthcare workers, we don't want to hear that we are also not cooperating with our healthcare workers.
What to do if you think you have been exposed or are experiencing signs and symptoms of COVID-19? Immediately call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. In addition, you should stay at home. Don't go to work, school, or any public place. Do not use public transport, and avoid visitors to your home. You may need to do this for up to 14 days to reduce the spread of the infection. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Let us examine one of the measures being put in place to curtail the spread of COVID-19. Quarantine, that is.
I want to make it abundantly clear that the quarantine that has been put in place is the law. Breaking the law can have severe consequences, as was articulated by the Attorney General. The reason why we put quarantining into place is to protect you and to protect the entire society. And therefore, as we move through this epidemic, we have to utilize different tools. Yes, we can use a big stick of the law, but what we want more importantly is moral suasion. And we want people to feel that their compliance is for their own good. And therefore, it's self-compliance and self-regulation that we are trying to encourage, a behavior change, because we are going through the crisis together. No system is perfect, and you will never have 100% compliance when it comes on to human behavior, no matter how strict the rules are. But we are encouraging persons to understand, and we can see from the evidence, as pointed out in this chart, the effectiveness of quarantining. If we had not put those restrictions in place, what could have occurred if those positive cases that we have now identified from our first case was able to move throughout the community and the wider Jamaica? Just think of the impact of that and realize that because we acted early and because we acted swiftly, we were able to contain any further spread.
The National Parenting Support Commission cares. Parents, we're here for you. Here is another tip. Empower your children. You empower them simply by ensuring that you're practicing good hygiene. Wash your hands thoroughly and often. Your children must see this and they must model this behavior. So each time, have them come, wash their hands properly and wash their hands very often. Secondly, you empower them if you continue to provide structure at home. So they are to get up the same time in the mornings, do the tasks that you have assigned them. Those tasks include the schoolwork. Ensure that while they're doing schoolwork, you're doing work right beside them so that you're able to monitor the exercises. Of course, carve out time for fun. Family time is very important. This will also make them feel as if there's some semblance of normalcy at home. This is so important. Structure, routines, good hygiene practices, these are some of the suggestions. National Parenting Support Commission.
This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.